There we go. I am going to call to order this town council meeting of October 12th, 2021 at 7:02 p.m. We could all stand for the pledge of allegiance and a moment of silence. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, the first thing on the agenda today for number 4 is one of the fun things that we have to do up here. Tonight, we are presenting a citation to Steve Clark of his 30 years of service to the town of Tolland. So in recognition of your service, which began in 1990, when you volunteered on the newly formed Space Assessment Committee designed to address overcrowding in our schools. You also served on the Education Specifics Committee. Both subcommittees were instrumental in the design and building of our original Birch Grove Primary School. Additionally, Mr. Clark volunteered on the Building Committee for the construction of the former Birch Grove School, chairman of the Building Committee for the addition to the school, and chairman of the Building Committee for the portable classrooms. He remained a member of these committees until the former Birch Grove School was completed. In 2005, while also serving on municipal committees for the Birch Grove School, Mr. Clark was elected to the Board of Education and remained a member for 10 years. He simultaneously served on the Policy Committee for the same 10 years and the Negotiation Committee for the last 4 years. Finally, Mr. Clark was appointed to the Zoning Board of Appeals, where he has remained a member since and is serving the last 2 years as chairman. Now, therefore, I, Tammy Nuccio, on behalf of the citizens of Tolland, acknowledge the 30 years of dedicated service Mr. Clark has provided to the town of Tolland. In witness whereof, I have hereto set my hand and cause the seal of the town of Tolland to be affixed on this 12th day of October, 2021. Forgot the box. Here you go, Steve. Thank you so much for all your service to the town. It is appreciated, and I'm sad to see you go, but I know you're not going far. So thank you very, very much for all you've done for the town of Tolland.
I thank you for this citation. It's been kind of unexpected, but certainly appreciated.
Listen, when somebody's given that much to the town, it deserves recognition.
Well, thank you very much. And it doesn't seem like it's been 30 years. It started out with just something different to do and just continued on 1 year at a time. And all of a sudden we're here at 30.
Yeah.
So,
Well, again, this town is very lucky to have volunteers who are willing to dedicate that much of their time and their life to making sure we have a great community. So
well,
I appreciate it.
just let me say, I had employment for 35 years, but I think the 30 years I did in volunteer service for the town was more rewarding, was probably more appreciated than the 35 at the company I worked for.
Would you like to do a picture? A quick picture?
Oh,
We can stand right over here, give the town seal in the background.
sure.
You guys want to come around like on that, either back there or over this way? Does that work? Can you?
Or do you want us to back up closer to them?
We could probably do that.
Would that work better?
Yeah, Lou, do you want me to take it so you can get in?
You just can't block the.
Yeah, so we'll be in front so that they can get behind us. Hold on. Yeah, I got it all. I've got one more over here too. One more?
One more.
I'll do it this way with mine. Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
again, Steve, thank you
Thank you.
very much.
Thank you.
From the town of Tolland, I can't thank you enough.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, yes, Steve, here. All back in there.
Okay. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Okay. That gets us on to 5, public petitions, communications, and public participation on any subject within the council with a 2-minute limit. If you're on a device, you can raise your hand. If you're on a phone, it's *9. If you're in the audience, please feel free to raise your hand. I will call on everybody in order in which their hands are raised. If you are called on, please state your name and address for the record. Not seeing anybody. Not seeing anybody in the public? Okay, good, thank you. We have no public hearing items tonight. That gets us to 7A, report committees responsible to the council. Brenda?
Yes, thank you. Again, I'm sorry to bring this up. It's very hard to hear you. It seems like there's traffic noise or something interfering. And every time something's going on in the background, you guys cut off and we're missing some of the dialogue. So,
Brenda, and see if that creates any kind of barrier.
Yeah, there's no traffic.
yeah, I don't know what that noise is. It just sounds like the traffic outside a window or something. I don't know.
Could be the air conditioning is running.
Could be the air
So
conditioner.
that would be.
Okay. Yeah, it's obviously it's hard to tell. And we have quite a few people in the audience today, so listening in on Zoom. So I just want to ensure that they can all hear. Mine are going to be really quick. Tourism's meeting got canceled because it was scheduled yesterday on Indigenous Peoples Day, so it was a day off. And so they did not have any meetings, and Sustainable CT has not met.
All right, thank you very much. 7.
I'm getting interference with someone else. I'm sorry.
There you go.
There we go.
All right. Blight Committee has not had a meeting since last time we met. Tolland Historic Green Commission has not had a meeting since we met. Planning and Zoning has continued their public hearing from last week to next Monday. Because it's a continuing public hearing, I'm not going to, go into depth on anything, but I do want to bring up one point that we're going to have to consider at some point in the next year, most likely. They are talking about affordable housing, and there may be a time that Planning and Zoning has to sit down with Town Council and discuss an affordable housing account. One of the things that they're asking the public to consider is if a developer comes in and cannot meet a minimum requirement or does not want to meet a minimum requirement of affordable housing in their development, they can pay a fee that would go into this account. And then the money in that account would be used to help attract or get more affordable housing in Tolland. So that's something that we need to keep our eye on and to be ahead of when this, after this public hearing. So that's the only thing on that. And those are all my liaisonships. Thank you.
You, Kurt?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So a couple meetings since our last meeting. Agriculture Commission, they had their monthly meeting canceled. The Economic Development Commission did meet, didn't discuss too much. The chair wasn't present, so they did. The topic of the joint meeting with Town Council and EDC that they'd asked me to September. Kind of seems like we can wait till new council, so we don't have to push that in before November. And then the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, pretty much big takeaways are preparing their survey, a survey to go out to town residents to kind of gauge what people's interests are. If they think they're missing activities for the town residents or something they like to see. So that's something they're starting to plan and develop for the spring. That's all I got.
Perfect, thank you. It's a very good idea. Lou?
Thank you, Madam Chair. That the Birch Grove Building Committee had another meeting that we discussed. Again, several different change orders that we're luckily getting down to the tail end of it. That one of the change orders was shot down after a discussion where we felt that it was something that dealing with the islands and the replacing the grass there with stone and gravel or with weed barrier. And that we just felt it was not a effective use of money that especially at this point where that's something that we could wait to see how the maintenance issues, if there are any, are dealt with at a later point in time. That one of the issues that we also was brought up during the public discussion was one of the residents that lives in the immediate area around Birch Grove was had issues with some of the light, noise, and other complaints where there were trees in the area that at one time blocked her view of Birch Grove, and that now those trees are gone. That there was a concern that, as she stated, she could see into the cafeteria of the school, and that there was concerns that she brought forward about the light, about the noise, about other issues that we discussed it as a board. And said that we would look into the issue, but given the fact that this is something that was brought up at literally the last minute, and that it was never brought up to anyone's attention other than Steve Werbner when this whole project first began, that there was concern that it was just too late in the project, and that there was another concern where that we were asking that could possibly considered by the attorneys, where if we do any type of remediative actions, then does that open the door for us to be required to do it for all residents in the immediate vicinity? So unfortunately, the issue came down to where that this town, this property owner could take their own remediatory steps to fix the issue on their own, rather than having the town have to, but we're looking into that, and that's something that we'll be discussing over the next meetings. Other than that, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. John?
The BPCA did not meet, so nothing to report this week.
I did not have any meetings. There was no EDC Eastern Highland Health District meeting since the last meeting, so I have nothing to report. Steve?
Nothing to report from me other than the Conservation Commission will be holding a meeting on the 14th. So next meeting.
Okay, Bill?
Permanent Celebration Committee met on the 30th, and their first topic of discussion was the setup of the scarecrows, which I think went great. So there was discussion on the logistics about the setup, and we drive by it every day. It looks great. They also discussed a to-do list that they need to do in preparation for the fall festival on Saturday. So there was that discussion, and then there was they continued to discuss and some sort of collaboration with the People with Disabilities Commission to look at compliance requests for the celebrations, the town celebrations going on, so more people can be accommodated, the disability population can be accommodated to participate. And I think, with the new grass mats that we have, that alleviates a lot of the issues. So that was the meeting. It was a quick meeting. And that was it.
Perfect. All right, thank you. That gets to 8.1. The Tolland Tax Relief Program, also known as Ordinance 60, is required to be reviewed every 5 years or in the year following the revaluation, which we just had. So the council needs to review the ordinance. There were a lot of handouts in our packet to go along with this. And I think Jason's here tonight to kind of walk us through these.
I am.
How you doing, Jason?
Good. How's everybody?
Really realizing how old I'm getting when I look at your file here with all the little numbers on it and I cannot find a spot to put it in to see them.
Yeah, unfortunately, the spreadsheet is long and wide, so it, yeah, it's hard to jam it in, but that's why Megan sent the file along electronically to all the council members too, so you could take a look at it beforehand. And then maybe I'll share my screen if you want, and we can go over some of those, the numbers that are on that sheet.
I would appreciate that. I definitely appreciated the file because then I could change the view on it so I could see it better.
Yeah.
All right.
So basically, I'll give you an overview. The local tax relief program for Tolland was adopted in 2000. The part of the reason why it was adopted was because the state program was phased out as far back, I think I found, is 1988. And as that happened, more and more people felt the need to have some tax relief. So the local ordinance option was there for the town. They took it, and through some of the people that worked for the town at the time, the assessor, Bev, Bob Rubino, were big players in getting this thing built and trying to make it work. In 2007, the program was determined that it needed some revisions, and that group did a revision to the program, mostly including things like an asset test, so which currently is 10 times what the state maximum income amount is. So that happened in 2007. And since then, the program from year to year has had its problems. It's tough to administer, and it gets broken from time to time, as all the other programs that the state offers and the town offers have caused problems with generating tax bills. Just simply stated, some people have had large reductions in their tax bills based on this program being flawed. It's hard to explain to somebody that their taxes from this year to last year, based on what the way the program was written, was to not change at all. It's a freeze. The point is for it to not go up. But when the original adopters wrote the program, they said if you had more than your 2-acre house lot, that land above that will be taxed at the current mill rate. And so it adds another bit of math that has to happen between when the council adopts the budget and the mill rate, and then our office quickly has to do the math for all of these applicants. Currently, we're at 169 applicants, and that's come down over the last few years. But we had as many as just over 200. Yeah, I'm just looking at my historic list here. Yeah, just over 200. So when you want to get bills out as soon as you can after you've finally decided what the mill rate's going to be, we have to kind of quickly get this done, checked, and then sent over to tax so they can then take the file to have bills processed. And it doesn't sound like a lot, but because there's been historical problems with it, it's just a lot of double and triple checking, and it's caused a lot of problems. I gave you an example the last time we met back in December of 2020 of one particular account where they entered into the program. In the first year, there was an assessment change based on a crumbling foundation. That changed their assessment. The system thought that it should use that lower assessment historically. And then after 2 years, it was fixed. And in the meantime, the person went from a veteran status to a disability rating with a veteran status. So that kept changing. They were in the state circuit breaker program, then they weren't. So there's all these little moving parts, and that's the worst case scenario. But the system basically blew up when that happened. And it took a lot of explaining to do, and I had to write it out long form, have the taxpayer in and try to explain what was happening. And we eventually got through it, but it was difficult. And the program really, in my belief, for a program where you're trying to give relief, should run smoothly. It should be easy. It should be something that we don't need to have somebody dedicated to, and then at the 11th hour, try to get it done and get those tax bills out. So in my opinion, there's easier ways to do it. I've asked our vendor what some other towns do. I shared some of that information with you guys the last time we met. It was also, I don't know if it was included. Was it included in the packet this time?
Well, there's a one pager where you listed a few other towns that have programs.
Yeah,
We get
Yeah.
into the major differences between.
Yeah.
That was going to be one of my questions, is looking at this list.
Yep.
Can you give us a breakdown of what they do? Because I agree with you, this should be simplistic. The intent of a tax freeze is to freeze the tax.
yeah.
So if it's too complicated, then we need to fix that.
Yeah, I think the original intent was to not have people that had, say, 100 acres of land and met the income requirement to then get into this program and not pay taxes on that land. But what we found out in the 20 years is I don't know that there's many people that are in the program that have more than 10 acres. And I really don't think it's that much of a savings. And I think if they've been in town for that long, then maybe, they should be the ones that we should be receiving this type of reduction anyway. If they need the relief and they have 10 acres and you want these people that have been invested in the town for a number of years, and those are the ones that should get it. And I don't think that just because they have 10 acres of land should be something that they're penalized for. I mean, it wasn't that big of a thing, but it was just one more level of a change in taxes that caused the system to not be able to process that. And with us trying to do more with less, it just needs to run smooth. So what I did was I polled the Assessors Association and asked how many towns have local elderly programs. And I got some responses. Some of the stuff I had to really call the assessors and find out more of the information, because they just, we knew from our vendor which towns had it and where it worked and somewhere it didn't. So on this spreadsheet, it shows some of these towns, and I try to use some towns that were similar. Guilford is one of those towns, even though it's waterfront, very similar program that they have now and that we have, and they have nothing but problems with it. And when I started asking them about this program, they asked, why am I even asking? Because they've been trying to do away with their program for years and adopt something else, that's more efficient. And I told them what we were going through now, and they thought it was a good idea to see if they could go to their council and see if they could make some revisions too, just so, processing this is easier. But anyway, what is supposed to happen is your taxes are frozen at your previous year's tax rate. If you have excess land above and beyond your building lot, that is taxed at the current level of, so instead of like last year would have been 3605 mill rate, just your excess land would have been taxed at 3711 mill rate. It's easy to understand. It's only a few dollars extra, but when you start looking at how the system was trying to calculate that, it was just muddying the waters. And that's the least of the problems. But while we're at it, I think that part of this test should be removed. And maybe there's a different direction to go. I don't want to go through each one of these that are on this list, but what I wanted to show that what some of their total costs were to the town. So for instance, Granby has 167 applicants and the cost of town $270,000. That way you could kind of see, I guess, if we had one thing that would be nice on here is their number of homeowners. So you could see what that percentage is of applicants to homeowners. I think Granby is a similar sized town to Tolland, but that's part of one of our tests, that the total cost to the town cannot exceed 0.5% of that year's budget. We're not even close to that. That was a test that I guess they wanted to put in originally to make sure that this wasn't costing the town too much money. And if it was, then we would prorate everybody's benefit based on how much over that 0.5% was. So as you can see, that would just add another layer to this really difficult process to do when we're trying to get bills out. It's just not, it's not a good system. So so what some of the other towns are doing is a credit, so a tax credit instead of a, basically what we do is we compile your taxes from last year to this year and then tell you what it would have been. That's the benefit. So if your taxes would have went up $30 this year, that's what we keep track of as the benefit. And as that adds up over the course of time, we check that against, is it more than 75% of what your tax bill would have been? And is it, how close are we getting to that 0.5% of the budget? So in my spreadsheet, I've got all the applicants there, which you don't really need to know that information, but as you get down to the bottom, it shows you our current freeze benefit of $160,509. What our average benefit is, $949, and what that percentage of the budget is, 2.8%. What I write down below that in the green, if you're looking at a color copy, says that passes our asset test, or that passes the 0.5%. And then there's different scenarios as you go across the spreadsheet that just say, okay, what if we gave everybody just $1,000 credit? If you meet the income guidelines, we'll give you $1,000. Well, that affects all the people that are more than $1,000 that are frozen. And just to the right of that, it shows you what the end result of that is. So it is an increase for a lot of people in their taxes, but it's a decrease for some of our people that are probably the most in need. So that's really not a good way to go. So I went to the next column, column L, if you're in a spreadsheet. So what if we kept everybody at 1,000, or put everybody at 1,000, and all those that were over 1,000 kept their original number, and we grandfathered them for as long as they're in the program. And so that's that scenario, column L, and with what the cost is to the town at $214,000 and annually, and then the percent of the budget, 3.7%. So that also passes the asset test as far as that goes, if you want to keep that the same.
I'm sorry, you meant 0.37%, correct?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. Lots of numbers. So then I just started going off with whatever I thought might be another alternative way to do this. So if you lived in town from 0 to 5 years, you have a $1,000 tax credit. And 6+ years, it's a $2,000 tax credit. And what is that total? Okay, well that blows it out of the water. So we're at 0.54 at that point, and it fails the test. The next column is 1 to 5 years at 1,000, 6 to 10 at 1,500, and then 11+ at the next level at 2,000. And that's a tax credit, not an assessment reduction. It's a straight dollar credit. And when you're working with credits, it's a lot easier than trying to apply that to your assessment as a reduction and then generate a new tax bill based on the mill rate. So this would be a lot easier. It's in the system. You're not talking about change. If somebody changes their assessment because they're able to improve their house in 1 year, you could still increase that assessment, but then they would still get that the credit, which is in the form of just a flat dollar amount coming off their tax bill. And that's how a lot of the other towns do it. And then the last column is if you were a 1 to 10 year resident at $1,000 and then 10+. So just trying to break it up a little differently to give you a different scenario and let you know with our current applicants what that means to the overall number. So this was, you know, an exercise I wanted to do, and I wanted to get some other scenarios directly from our vendor, what other towns are doing. But they weren't as helpful as I would have liked them to be. The woman that does help out with this program is partially retired. She's 75 years old, and she works kind of as needed for them. And she's the one to talk to about it, and it's helpful, but getting her on the getting her attention is sometimes difficult. So I was able to get all the data and then come back through and then compile it the way I did here. So this is just to show you some scenarios. I'm open to other scenarios, but I really like the way that this works as a credit and not a assessment reduction or some freeze that we have to historically save that data, because that's where we're running into problems.
So Jason, the first thing that comes to mind for me on this is I wouldn't want to do anything that is going to jeopardize or hurt the people who are currently in the program. So understanding this spreadsheet, the current freeze benefit.
Yep.
As you said, some of them are higher than others, and not understanding the hows or whys they are where they are. My concern would be, like, for instance, a high number on here, someone has a current freeze benefit of $3,080. I wouldn't want to then ding them, like give them the $2,000 and then say their tax $5,080.
Yeah.
So is there any way to kind of people who are exceeding that amount now and freeze their freeze, so to say, so we're not going to negatively impact people who are at higher than $2,000 right now?
Yeah, I think we can do, because it's a local option, we can do whatever we want with the benefit. Making it work in our software is another question. But whenever it's a dollar amount that's actually coming off their tax bill, then it's just a field. As long as you can put that, whatever, if you know what that frozen tax dollar amount was, you can just throw it in a field and it will stay there. If it changes for whatever reason, then you could always go back and correct that. I like column L if you're in the spreadsheet, in the actual Excel spreadsheet, because it keeps those who have gotten to that level. And it keeps those people that are at the $3,000 tax break. It keeps them there until, you know, they leave the program or move or whatever, the property sells or something like that. So it increases everybody else that's below that mark. I don't think that's terrible. If they're applying, they probably need assistance sooner than later. So if you're giving it to them in year 1 through 5 versus, you know, it takes them 5 years to get to $2,000 off their tax bill, then, you know, I think that's a good thing. You're helping people immediately, you know, versus saying, okay, your tax bill last year was, say, $5,000, and this year it was going to be $5,020, but you saved $20. You know, like that person, if they meet the income requirement, probably needs more than that. I mean, according to the spreadsheet, that actually passes. So, you know, it meets what you want it to be if you want to use the old guideline of 0.5% of the budget.
Yeah, I'd like to see a hybrid row in here of row L, but up to the $2,000, if that's possible, what that would do to the numbers.
Sure.
And I have questions about the other aspects of the program, but does anybody want to ask any questions on this part? Lou?
Oh, no, I disagree. I mean, with what you said, Madam Chair, that it's, that I see that, because that's one of my things that I was looking at as well, is seeing how what would be give our residents the biggest benefit without creating a substantial issue for, on the,
Steve?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to Jason, one quick question is, do any of these options, or even the one that's kind of the current favored one, it seems, offer the opportunity for it to be expanded so that more applicants can apply for this program? Because I think that was one issue that we've had, is that we've seen a gradual decline in applicants, and I think ultimately we want this to be a program that helps as many seniors as possible.
Yeah, I think the household income is what it is. You know, that's a number that we get from Bev every year. She shares, the state sets what that income level should be. And it was an easy parameter to follow because it changes every year and the state sets it. So it's easy for us to say, okay, here's the number that came in from the state. This is what they say household income should be for this program. And we can make it whatever we want. You know, you could say 10,000 over the max income level. You know, you could move away from that number. But I think that's a good benchmark to use because I don't have to set it. The state's monitoring income levels, and they're going to know more than I'm going to know what people make in their retirement or which I don't know.
Great state level on that, or are we modifying it all?
Right now, it's just based off of the state, what the state recommends. I have that somewhere here.
Number's too low. Just personally, from the number that I've seen, the people that I've interacted with and that, I think the number is, it's pretty low, especially if there's, you're a homeowner, a senior homeowner in Tolland and you're on Social Security and stuff like that. I'd like to kind of maybe look at if you can provide that number to everybody, and we can have a conversation around that.
Yeah, I'm looking at, I don't know if this was last year, let me see. Household income was 62,800. So that's gonna include, if there's a husband and wife still there in a home, they can easily be over that if they made a good income. When you start adding, if kids are still living at home or they've moved back home, it's supposed to include that income. We ask the people in the program, what's the household income, including kids, grandkids that might live with them. And then we just take their word for what they report to us as income. The asset test is every other year. That's very typical for this program. So essentially 1 year you could be over income, but if it's not your year to report, then you don't have to worry about it. During COVID, over the last 2 years, we haven't taken any reapplications. We've only taken new applications. Everybody else was automatically, passed the test without having to submit documentation.
For our asset test limits.
Yeah. Well, income or property value. The asset test is 10 times that household family income. So 62,800 turns into 628,000.
All right, so that's the asset piece of
Correct.
it. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, and then I noticed you're saying that we have 50% biannually filing. Does that mean they have to file that's every other year, right?
Correct.
50%.
Except for the last two, because of COVID, the state waived that through the what do you call it? Executive order.
Right. So what's the 50% in that? 50% biannually.
Well, it just means that half of the group has to file every other year, and then we rotate it to the other half. And then, I guess it makes it easier for us. I don't know why that was established, but yeah, that's what we do. We still have to apply the taxes to everybody every year, but they only have to file.
Does that make it harder for you? Would it be easier if it was just?
No, every other year is fine. We work with the senior center and we work with Bev's office. Bev takes applications. She brings them up for us. She helps folks fill them out. And we haven't had to work with Kim yet over at the senior center. But in the past, they would help us out filling them out as well. So it's helpful to get them in. That's not the problem. The problem is getting the math done in time for when you pass the mill rate, and then 2 weeks later, you want the bills out. That's when it becomes difficult.
So either way, the easier process for you would be a credit,
Correct.
linking it to a locked-in mill rate or anything like that.
Yep.
Okay, so that's something for us to consider then. Changing at least that format of it, and then just deciding what number credit would be beneficial. And I think we're gonna say, give me a worksheet and let me play with it, but I don't think that's fair to everybody else. So I would,
No.
maybe this showed us some examples. If you took that column L and did a $2,000 on that, so we could see what that number was, and maybe a 1,500, what that number is. And then we know how many applications we get that we are not approving, that are denied. How many are denied?
Maybe 1 or 2 a year at the most. Yeah.
And do we of those denials?
You cut out there for a sec.
You know, the main driver of those denials?
Over income, people just not aware that what the income level would be. And then they're filing their paperwork by the time we get it and check it, then they get denied, but they can appeal that to town manager.
So I know this is kind of out of the box thinking, but I've been looking at benefit cliffs and looking at the impact on senior citizens with taxes and if their income. And one of the things that I've been kicking around is a percentage of income, that the property tax shouldn't exceed a certain percentage of income, kind of like we have housing and Medicaid and stuff like that. I know that would be more complex than just an income number that you're dealing with here. That's why I was asking if we have an idea of how many people are either not applying or denied based on, $63,000 a year or $5,000 a year.
The problem I see with that right off the bat is that not everybody files income taxes. So not that everybody's the most trustworthy people in the world, but now you're taking everybody at their word, what their income is. And I like proof.
I understand. Okay, so I guess that's my concern here is just, like I said, the people who are slightly just outside that 62.8 and trying to figure out a way to help them. So I'm gonna need to do some more mulling on this. Anybody else? Steve?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jason, I know at the last time we talked about this in December, I think it was the former councilor Rubino that was willing to offer any guidance or input.
Yep.
Have they up to it all, or have they kind of touched base with you since then over the past year? I think they're out of town right now, so they might have just got back from the trip, but.
Yeah, Bob had sent me a revision to my Excel spreadsheet that I had used, just showing one of the example of one of the homeowners there, just to make things work a little more smooth, offered up time to help me with some scenarios. I've talked to him informally through Jan a couple of times because she's on the Board of Appeals, Assessment Appeals. So it didn't really ever get to a point where we sat down and made anything out of it. I'm definitely open to it. I don't have a problem with that. I'd rather give people more money. It's up to you guys to decide whether, the town can afford it. That's what you would like to do. I'm just trying to make it as easy as possible. I've had 2 retires in my office, going back to last November, and we've struggled to fill the second position, and we're just running around crazy. So I haven't had time to, to spend on extra. Well, it's not necessarily extra, but I just haven't had the time to sit down and give this the time it needs to really hammer out, this is the best scenario. It's just tough.
I appreciate that. I appreciate you sharing that honesty. I know it's definitely been difficult. And I think I saw from the town manager's report that you had to decline, I think, 2 of the finalists and go out for another round of searches. So that's only gonna make it tougher as you get into the next budget season, whatever we end up, so the next council decides, so. But I think I'm in agreement that I think, option L seems to have some benefits, but I think we need some more time to give you more time and perhaps maybe a better opportunity to get that vacancy filled, so you have more available time, you know, throughout the week to work on that. But I would definitely like to see some potential citizen engagement. I don't know if we want to go back to the idea of the subcommittee that would involve like it was when it was first founded, or if we'd rather just have it be more informal conversations. I would leave that up to Jason to ultimately decide, or will ultimately decide.
You know, after last meeting, we ran it by Rick's office and asked, you know, what do we need to do in order to make any changes to this program? And it really was set up so the council could adopt the program, and then that you guys could also, form a committee so we could build this program, and then the council could then decide what kind of revisions to make to it. So I didn't include the email in this little packet, but I do have a copy of that from Bianca, who, yeah, basically we can make revisions if we would like to this. And obviously you would guys then vote on what, if you accept it or not. So I think what I would like to do is, now that you can see some of these other scenarios, Tammy or whoever is welcome to make some changes, throw out some other options, and I'll make sure I take care of a couple of those things that you've asked for, and present that to you again and see if we're further along, and we can make a change. I don't know which,
I appreciate that. I can definitely play with the Excel spreadsheet that you sent me. I can play around with it myself, but I think it will get some scenarios together for everybody going forward. And just one more thing to clarify. If we went to a credit system and we said you got, a $1,000, $1,500 or $2,000 credit, however we end up doing it, you would then also have the ability to apply the other credits that were giving you so much complexity and issues last time. If there was a veterans or a disabled, you would have the opportunity to apply those credits on top of the credit for this, correct? So it would simplify the process in that perspective for you?
yeah, the state works as a credit as well. So that's, yeah, exactly what it is. It's just another credit on top of that credit. Instead of a $750 circuit breaker credit, it could be $1,750. And then those numbers, except for, I guess, the people over 1,000, it would be easier to follow, why is somebody $1,633? It would stick out like a sore thumb, but
Are those credits figured into this current freeze benefit now? Like for the future?
no.
This is just the straight tax piece.
Yep.
This.
Yep.
Right,
This is just the town benefit and what it's doing. So somebody here that has a $3,000 reduction may also be getting $750 from the state. They may have a veterans exemption as well that's giving them $300, $400, $500. So.
Okay, that's helpful to know. Does anybody else have any other questions? Steve?
Another question, thank you, Madam Chair. Jason, if we do go through and make any final changes, would there be an immediate implementation in effect, or would it be phased in at a certain date due to kind of the nature of our fiscal years?
Yeah, this doesn't, to me, that's a question, I guess, for the town attorney, but I think that you could adopt it right away and we would apply it to the benefit for this coming tax year.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, well, thank you very much, Jason, for coming and explaining all this to us and giving us lovely spreadsheets to play with. I appreciate the time and effort that it takes to put it together, especially when you are a little short-staffed right now. And I promise not to be too much of a pain in the butt. But yeah, if you want to just let us know through Lisa when you have a couple extra scenarios thrown together, I would appreciate that, and we can get you back on the agenda and hopefully make some positive change.
Sounds good. Thank you.
We're actually hoping to put them on the next agenda.
Oh, that'd be great. Oh, that's
So that-
perfect.
That's the plan, right, Jason?
So you'd be on the next October agenda?
Sure.
The next agenda.
Yeah, I think so.
It throws too many curveballs at you.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you, Jason. Have a good
Now
night.
you can go home now.
All right, thank you. Good night.
Good night.
All right, that gets us to 8.2, the annual meeting of the Tolland Public Library Foundation to discuss foundation directors for 2020, 2021 accomplishments, 2020, 2020, 2021, 2022. There's way too many twos here. Goals in 2021, 2022 approved budget, as well as an overview of the foundation activities over the past year. And that's nice to see you. I always love it when you come and give us these. So
Yeah, so, can everybody hear me?
yeah,
Yeah,
just
you wanna
come
sit
in,
right
you
at
want
the
to sit
table.
right there, get a
Closer,
little
yeah.
closer. That's good.
Okay,
I'll just pick you up on the L camera and everything.
okay, great. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Linda Byam, and I'm president of the Tolland Public Library Foundation. And in accordance with the bylaws of the Tolland Public Library, the annual meeting of the membership, which is the town council, is held on the second Tuesday of October. And we're going to talk about the foundation directors, our accomplishments and our goals. And I provided you with my letter, so I won't go through them all. I know you guys have a busy agenda, but I just want to hit some of the highlights.
Take your time.
Oh,
Really,
okay.
don't, it's not inconvenience. You go over anything you want to.
Okay, well, thanks. Allison Higas, Cliff Vachon, and I each have terms that are ending of October 2021. And we have asked to be reappointed for another 2-year term. So currently we have no vacancies on our board of directors. For our 2020-2021 accomplishments, they are significant, particularly given the environment that we were in and the library was as well. So most recently, we provided almost $9,000 worth of funding to purchase a wall-mounted media display system for the children's program room. And this equipment is a significant addition to that room, and it makes it more versatile. For example, now the library can have showings of children's movies with their existing movie license, which was also funded by the foundation. And installation of this equipment was coordinated with the town public works, and training was provided for the staff. As part of National Library Week, the foundation hosted a campaign to recognize and thank the staff of the library who had been outstanding in supporting Tolland residents during the pandemic. The public appreciated getting to know each of the staff members through fun profiles on social media and also in print. The foundation also hosted an appreciation luncheon for the staff. We provided $3,000 of additional funding for Hoopla, which is a popular streaming service for ebooks and other digital material that's available to all library patrons. We've also provided almost $2,000 in funding for Brain HQ, which is a personalized cognitive brain training subscription service, and that's new, and it's available to all patrons virtually from home. We provided funding for 2 mobile hotspots that are available to check out of the library for patrons who may not have that necessary bandwidth at home, whether it's for school or for work. And we also renewed a premium Zoom license for the library to hold meetings for the Friends and the Foundation or other programs Barbara might have when the town accounts are busy. We also provided about $3,000 to continue to fund databases and subscriptions, including Ancestry.com, which is very popular, Job Now, which is a job seeking database, Event Keeper, and Tumble Books. We hosted the 11th season of the popular Eaton Dimmitt King author series and successfully continued that on Zoom this year with 4 authors, including Sari Rosenblatt, Sharon Duquette, Jim Smith, and Susan Schoenberger. We found that we had increased numbers of people attending these author visits, and they were very successful. We provided funding for 2 naturalist programs and 2 virtual cooking classes. We maintain our website so we can continue to accept donations through that. And we continue to increase the awareness of the Library Foundation. We also continue to increase the awareness of our availability as a recipient of other third-party donors, including the United Way, Benevity, Truist, and Amazon Smile. And each year, we get our donations increase from those organizations through that awareness. We work closely with our investment manager for 2 of our endowment funds. And they have had, given the market conditions, the endowment has done quite well over the past few years. The foundation board, along with the librarian director and staff, we continue to focus on a long-term vision of focused grants to substantially improve the library. And as of August 30th, the year-to-date grant amount dispersed from the foundation's endowments and operating funds was over $17,000. So our goals for the upcoming year is to implement the Tolland Oral History Project, which will explore the lives of residents in our town and bring their stories to life through digital media and public performance. We're really excited about this. We have one of our board members who works specifically in this area, and she's been starting to dig through historical records and oral histories of people from town. And the oral accounts of town life will be used to create a multimedia experience that will allow community members to connect with stories of the past. And this story will dive deep into life in Tolland, from family to work, to art, agriculture, to arts, education, and cultural identity. The budget for our 2021-2022 provided to you. Our financial records are provided to the town's financial officer monthly, and we have a CPA review our records annually. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys might have about the Library Foundation or any of our accomplishments or goals or budget.
Thank you, Linda. First of all, I want to say thank you for the upcoming scones food one. I think that's great.
Yes,
I love those kind of things. And I love scones. So. And I did actually have one question.
Sure.
You mentioned the 2 hotspots. How
Yeah.
often were those taken out? Did you find
That's a
that they
great
were-
question. We typically get usage reports from Barbara when she asks to renew them. She said that they were popular, but I don't have the exact numbers, but I'll get them from Barbara and I'll forward them to you.
That'd be great to know,
Yeah.
because if they're being taken out frequently
Yeah.
and there is a demand for them, then that might be something that we should look into, trying to do something with in the town side of the budget if possible. That's when you had that on here, it definitely piqued my curiosity for how often it was being taken out and, you know, if there was a big demand or a wait for it. I'm sure Steve's gonna have some questions.
You got some
No
more
questions.
meetings.
No, I mean, I go to the
Yeah.
meetings as liaison, so no, I
Right.
appreciate the presentation and, you know, you guys provide great updates throughout your meetings.
Yeah.
What do you think are the biggest challenges though, going into the next year? And there's a lot of goals and opportunities. What do you think will be the challenges to reach some of those goals over the next year?
Well, a lot of the challenges have to do, and this is really Barbara will, as far as the foundation goes, I can't speak for the challenges at the library, but we have had a lot of positive success with the endowment because of the market. So we have available money to use for enhancing the library. However, Barbara, is very good about understanding what the needs of the public are and balancing that with growing the endowment so it will be there eventually in perpetuity. So I think for the foundation, that's our biggest challenge as a board, is to understand that we have an endowment. We can't spend it all at once, and we have to make sure that it's there to fund the library for a long time. As far as the library ones, the challenges, I think, Barbara can speak to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's it for me for now, but thank you. And it's great to see how much good work was done over the last year, and
Yeah, thanks.
best of luck with the next year.
Thank you.
I love the oral history project.
It's gonna be very exciting. Yeah.
When I was at the senior center before, when we could all go there, so many of the seniors talked about how there was at one point, I guess, something where like the middle schoolers would come and talk to the seniors. And anybody who's really around a lot of seniors knows they love to tell their story. And I feel like it's a lost appreciation between the seniors and youth now, that we don't have that spot for them to connect anymore and to understand that. And I love the idea of Tolland oral history. I was actually talking to Bob Rubino about the water tower, or the tower that's out at Wannet, and how they wanted to do something of Tolland history, paintings on it, and like pictorial history of Tolland and that. So these things coming together, I think it's a wonderful opportunity. And I just want to say, you know, thank you to the Library Foundation for all that you guys do. You do have an endowment, you have to guard that, you have to make sure that the money's there long-term, but the things that you pick and choose to do in the community make a difference. And these programs that you have out there and the availability of things like this, you know, they matter to our near 15,000 residents. They matter to me. So, you know, I just want to say thank you for all the hard work that you guys put in, and the balance that you have to maintain between, you know, deciding what things to do and what not to do, and safeguarding that the money's there in the future. I respect the heck out of what you guys are doing, and I just want to say thank you.
Well, thank you. I'll bring that back to our board. So appreciate
Anybody?
that.
Oh, Brenda has her hand up.
Yes, thank you very much. I just want to echo some of those words, you know. Thank you, Linda, for everything you and your board does for this community. Libraries, as we know, are a vibrant center of communities. And what you're doing is helping boost people's experiences and boosting our community. You're helping preserve history and the truth, which is really important nowadays with all that misinformation out there. And you're really helping connect people in our community. So it's very much appreciated. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Brenda. I'll pass that along as well.
Anybody else have anything? Well, we'll make this as painless for you as possible. Thank you for going through your letter though, and bringing those highlights to us. And please tell everybody, we highly appreciate that.
I will do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Have a good night.
You too.
All right, that gets us to 8.3, appointments to vacancies on various municipal boards and commissions. Steve?
Steve Johnson, I would make a motion to approve the reappointments as outlined below for the Tolland Public Library Foundation. Linda Byatt, Allison Hagus, and Cliff Vachon for a term of 10/31/21 to 10/31/23. For the Permanent Celebration Committee, Celeste Enishall and Mary Pat Susi for a term of 11/3/21 to 11/3/24. And for the Veterans Recognition Commission, Kyle Davis and Kern Mader for a term of 10/31/21 to 10/31/24.
Brenda Felicity, I'll second.
Any discussion? I would just like to say thank you to everybody. A lot of these people that are on this list here are long-term volunteers, and I appreciate everything that you're putting into the town and volunteering. All of these commissions are important, and everybody does something that's important for the town. So I just want to thank everybody. Seeing these names on here again, you guys all coming back again and again just says a lot. All those in favor? Kurt?
Aye.
Lou?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Can't speak right now. Brenda?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
I'm an aye, so that's unanimous. Thank you very much. Congratulations. Welcome back for another term.
Congrats, Linda.
All right, that gets us now to 8.4. This is a discussion on a few the code of the town of Tolland, chapter 112, parks and recreation areas. This is in relation to amending it for the new cannabis legalization. Go ahead, Lisa.
Okay, back in August, we had the joint meeting with the planning and zoning and the town council to discuss the new cannabis laws that are coming into effect, that came into effect. And it was determined at that time that planning and zoning would handle the things that had to do with business and regulations, things that normally fall under their purview, as well as the ordinances that would fall under your purview. The town council would manage those items. It was discussed furthering the prohibition in the parks of the use of cannabis or any sort of edibles related to that, and to update the signage moving forward. So that would require an ordinance update. So what I did here was I took a shot at trying to put some recommended language in place to give you as an example, to change the ordinance to prohibit the use of cannabis within the parks. That would include smoking, as well as smoking cigarettes and things like that. Because the ordinance really never said anything about smoking tobacco in the parks. However, there were signs that say no smoking in some areas that I've been advised. So I updated the ordinance as a draft to share some of that language with you and to include information. The other thing that I did was some research. I had CCM do a survey throughout the state of who was putting moratoriums in place, who was actually all out banning the sale in their towns, as well as the prohibiting in their public areas. And I included some of that information as well. It appears that the moratorium side of things regarding the sale and all that would fall upon planning and zoning based on your agreement at the last meeting. And I know they're trying to get through some zoning regulation changes right now, and they will probably look at it after the election as far as addressing whether they want to even do a moratorium or just move forward with making changes to the regulations. But right now, I don't have any further information from them as to how they are going to proceed.
Sorry, that was loud.
Okay, so I did provide the draft to our town attorney. He made some adjustments to it, but he's not finished with doing some research. He wants to look at some of the language that I used in the definitions, make sure that I'm picking up the right, because I'm no expert by any means. And I did a lot of research of what other towns have done, and tried to put a lot of information in there. So, like I said, you will see the two different colors of the recommended changes. It starts out under the definitions area, which defines cannabis, giving us, and our attorney broke it out even further to define cannabis, but also to define marijuana as well. So he broke that out a bit and segregated it. I also added smoking of any type. He added a little bit of language in there regarding any substance or marijuana as part of that definition. And also specifically tobacco products, just giving that information as well as part of the definitions. Then if you go on to, a lot of the other language stays the same. And if you go to page 29, you will see where I added item R, the prohibition of using tobacco or cannabis or any substances or marijuana, as well as I did also include language regarding edibles and things like that in public parks of marijuana, cannabis. Going further down, there really wasn't any language in the ordinance regarding the posting of signs, although I know we do post signs in various recreational areas. So I added that as well, to have language that would say that a sign should be displayed, indicating the prohibition of these items. And then the last section talks about in certain areas to provide that the town manager would be able or designate in certain areas of recreation. Say, for example, if you're at the lodge, you can't smoke inside the lodge, but possibly have a designated smoking area outside the lodge, if that was requested. Certainly, there would be no ability for anyone to smoke cannabis or to use cannabis on any of the town properties, but it would give some opportunity to allow a temporary or permanent smoking area for certain locations. So that is the overview of some of the changes I've made. Certainly, it's a first draft. I'd like to bring it, have some discussion tonight as well, but also bring it back possibly the next meeting, if possible, to maybe look at setting a public hearing to actually move forward with putting a change to the ordinance in place.
Okay, thank you for that. I did have a question regarding, as you said, Rick broke out, or Bianca, one of them broke out
Rick did.
between cannabis and marijuana. And can you maybe elaborate why they're looked at differently in the legislation? And also, I didn't notice anything regarding vaping in here.
Yes, there was vaping in here, and I did include that. I guess he took it out.
It might be in here somewhere,
Yeah,
under
it-
tobacco
yeah.
products.
Any electric device.
There we go, thank you.
Right, but I think that a lot of vaping is happening with cannabis.
But there also, the vaping is some, I think usually oils, I could be wrong. Like I said, I'm not an expert, but I swear, I'm not.
I respect
You can do a
that.
test, you can do a test, I'll pass. But from my understanding, that is part of that process, and I could make a note to make sure that it's included, but I thought I did include regarding the oils and such, which is usually through a vaping process. But
Yeah,
I'll
I
make a
see
note
that
of
the
that.
oils and all that are in there in the subsection, but I just don't know if it's,
right, see, what it is if you go under smoking, it also includes marijuana or cannabis, any type of substance, and the vaping is included under that section.
under the smoking section.
Yes,
Yeah.
and smoking doesn't just mean tobacco.
It doesn't spell out.
So if you go on page 23,
Okay,
you'll see there's cigarillos, electronic cigars, cigarettes.
yeah, I don't think we can ever capture all of them,
No.
but just making sure that.
I
there
did
was
my
something.
darnest.
I know, right? No, I just don't think it's fun. So the
and-
difference between the cannabis and the marijuana for this breakout?
From my understanding, marijuana is the actual plant, and I need a little more information from the attorney, because he broke it out where I had felt that, cannabis includes things where you can actually create edibles, you can create other types of items, cooking with it and such. And marijuana, I don't want to take a chance on giving wrong information here, but I think that is more of the use of the actual
The plant? Okay.
bud or whatever of the
This is-
plant. But
yeah.
I could certainly ask the attorney to expressly explain why he wanted it separated, because I did have it all in one.
Okay. Brenda?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to make a comment that maybe we don't want to put in the ordinance in here that we should have signs on display. I could just picture people saying they didn't see the sign and using that as an excuse. Or, the sign disappearing and not getting replaced in time, so people think they can get away with it. I mean, I obviously, I believe we should have signage, but I don't necessarily know that we need to express that the signage needs to be displayed here, if that makes sense. Maybe Lou could answer that a little bit better than me. The other thing is, from my understanding, and this is something you can ask the attorney when you're getting more distinct definition of cannabis and marijuana. From my understanding, in cannabis is what's used in the marketplace for the products. So it's all the stuff that we consider as legal. And marijuana is, there's, stigmas associated with that word. There's a reason why that word was developed. And I'm uncomfortable if the marijuana is just referring to items that are not legally used, then I don't think we need to have the definition of it, because if it's not legal, it's not here. But, I thought, again, cannabis was for anything that's legal on the marketplace, and that covered everything in the present legislative session. So, yeah, getting a better definition would be a good thing. And if you need ideas on signage, I took a bunch of pictures while I was up in Maine. They have some great signs that have just 3 little symbols that, say no smoking, no vaping, and no cannabis. And it's just the 3 little symbols with the, little circles through them. And it's pretty obvious what's there, or what's allowed and what's not on public property. So thank you for all your work on this. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Lou?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you, Madam Chair, that, yes, just addressing some of the issues that Ms. Falucci brought up. That with regard to the signage, first thing and foremost, is that really that we're sort of in a catch-22, because with the signage, that in order for any type of ordinance to be effective, people have to have notice. And so the claim could be is they weren't aware that they've gone to the park for forever. They weren't aware of this new restriction, and so signage to some degree has to be there, but it doesn't mean that we, that's just an additional step that we take for notification. I think it's something that we should look into it, but it doesn't need to be like every 10 feet or anything like that. I think it's just right at the entrance. That way it's that it's there, and then we send out a notification, through the public e-blast. That way we could say that we've done our due diligence to make sure that people are aware. That's first and foremost. And as far as the definitions, the difference between cannabis and marijuana is essentially, it's and Ms. Falucci is pretty accurate on it, where cannabis is more of the, and it's sort of along the lines of what Ms. Hancock was saying as well, that cannabis is more of the offshoot of the THC byproducts. So it's items that have THC either deactivated or something along those lines. Marijuana is actually the plant-based. So in order for it to be accurate, we would have to include both, because the cannabis type substance would include the edibles, include other things, where the marijuana would actually be anything that's plant-based. So if people have like pot brownies or something like that, that actually has the marijuana ground up inside it, that falls under that more than a cannabis type substance. It falls along the lines of the federal definitions. So what Rick has here essentially falls in line with what the federal definition would be. And then there was one other issue that I was going to, the vaping aspect of it. I think that we have it pretty well enumerated here as far as electronic cigarettes, cigars, cigarillos, that kind of thing. So I think that is sufficient, but I think also include anything which would include any types of oils or things like that. I think that's something that we should examine. That way we're fully covered on it. And then just overall, as far as the prohibitions and the restrictions, that what we're looking at doing here essentially would fall in line with what the what is it, RERACA, or however whatever the acronym for the recently passed legislation is. I'll get you that, because I know you're looking at me like, how to. All right, let me, it is the RERACA, RERACA, which is the responsible, equitable regulation of adult use cannabis. Okay. But that would fall, that what we're looking at would fall in line with the provisions of that, especially in relation to where it's smoking at various areas under section 27, or I'm sorry, under sections 88 through 90 of that same bill. and other provisions. So it's not that we're looking at singling out anybody, that there's already regulations that we can create regarding smoking and other uses on the property. So that this just falls in line with including CBD and marijuana usage. So, but I think that's all I have.
One quick question.
Yeah.
Just to clarify, when you were talking about adding oils, we have the definition of the cannabis type substance, and in there, it does include reference to oil. And then in here, we're discussing cannabis type substance or marijuana.
Well, I'm
Does
talking.
that meet what you're asking?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt there. I know, I think it's more along the lines for the vaping aspect of it, where you have the two different types. You have the cannabis oils, which people use, but then there's also the traditional vaping oils, which people use. And
Okay.
so that's more of what along the lines I'm looking for, where if we're gonna be consistent, then we need to be consistent across the board.
So you would like to see that included under smoking?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, just one possible recommendation request and then question. The request would be maybe providing this language to the Recreation Advisory Board, just kind of, it seems like it would be good to get their input on the language to make sure it's in accordance with them, that they kind of don't see any major issues with it, either by the next meeting or by the public hearing, just to make sure that they have oversight over it. And then the other question through you, Madam Chair, to Lisa is, so for this policy, under the definition of park, it says excluded from the coverage are lands under the delegated management and oversight of the Tolland Conservation Commission. So the question would be, would they need to then adapt their own policies, or would we, upon enacting our own, recommend they mimic ours to be in effect for all conservation areas that they oversee? Because then that kind of creates a patchwork of spaces that do and
That's a
don't
very
allow
good
it.
point.
And it's kind of, at the same time, each trail has designation for use for like mountain biking in some areas, horseback riding in others, and other places they don't allow it based on the composition of the trail. This is probably more catch-all for all of them. And I believe they do, in general, ban any kind of like open flames or things of that nature on the trail. So that is my one recommendation, is to know what we would need to provide to the Conservation Commission to keep them in alignment with the rest of the open spaces in town.
Well, with those towns, they're still town properties, right? So would they, if we include them in this, just from the language perspective, would they cover so they don't have to do their own individual?
I think that would be a good question to have answered. I don't know if we need the
I'm
town
not
attorney's
sure.
opinion on that, but I think if it can, that would be ideal, rather
Yeah.
than having two separate policies, even if they're the exact same language.
I
So,
agree.
Yeah,
I think we should definitely ask Rick on that, if we can just loop, because they are technically town properties, so.
and I'll bring that up at their
And then-
meeting on Thursday as well. Just, I'll mention it during public comment that we had this discussion. Probably have them touch base with the town manager's office about that.
I appreciate that.
What, could you point out where?
Yeah, it's under, on page 23, under the definition of park. It's right after all the discuss, after the section on marijuana. There's the
Okay.
definition of park, and it's says excluded from the coverage herein.
Yeah, because it says under scope, it says,
Gotcha.
yeah, and then.
All right.
It says schoolyard too. Parkland, open spaces, schoolyard, and other property. Does the school
Exclude
have their
from
own?
lands under delegated management of the town conservation.
Yeah, so I think we
But
want to,
schoolyard is your purview. That's not any park or property owned by the town of Tolland.
Oh, okay, that's all.
So
it was, and then
that's what it
excluded is
pertains
the Tolland
to.
Conservation.
And then they're saying
Right.
excluded is those areas, but that's a very good point, and I'm sorry I missed that.
no, it's okay.
I will definitely, to see if there's a way we could somehow incorporate that into here, or how they would, as you said.
Yeah,
how they-
proceed after the fact, or after we enact any ordinances.
Brenda, I'm gonna get to you in 1 second. I would like a little more clarification around the last section you put in, designation for smoking and tobacco areas.
Yep,
I didn't know, like, are
that,
we saying we don't currently have like designated smoking areas? Because I'll be
well,
honest, I'm not a fan of saying I'm going here and like 5 feet away from the door, we're gonna have where everybody can smoke.
There are some areas, and I'd have to check, I'm thinking, there's not many, but I think more so you're thinking like the lodge, you may have one of those places to put butts and stuff, for like a wedding or whatever, that people could go away from the lodge to have a cigarette or whatever during an event. But not to say that every park would have a smoking designated area. That's not the intent of that language. The intent is more so for,
Areas with pre-designated.
right, where it would be, there's like a specific event, you have a wedding or something like that. Some people may smoke and it may be very difficult for them, but if you're going to a park, I wouldn't recommend any of that, and that's not where I was going with that.
Okay. All right, Brenda?
Yes, two things that just came up with your guys' discussion. First of all, the lodge is inside a park, so, you know, it's surrounded by a park, so we have to be careful on the wording if there is a designated smoking area. And on top of it, you may want to ask public safety if they even want to allow a designated smoking area. Because, I mean, the trees and the foliage is so close to the lodge. The last thing I think we want them to do is to respond to that wedding. The other thing is maybe we can look at what the state allows and disallows in their parks. Because we do have state forests in our town, correct? And I would assume they have some sort of rule or ordinance about smoking, maybe even vaping and cannabis use on state lands. So, you know, Steve, when you brought up that point about being consistent with, you know, the open space management and our parks, you know, should we be also consistent or take a look and make sure that we're as close as possible, I guess, to what the state has for their roles? Again, it alleviates confusion on the part of those people who use both types of properties.
Anybody else? No? All right, then I think we gave you enough little bits of homework there to review and then bring that back. Thank you very much for the work on that. Thank Rick too.
Yep.
All right, that gets us to old business, 9.1, discussion of the engineering study in Miracle Field location and an update from the Miracle League Field Committee. Lisa.
Okay, tonight we have Mr. and Mrs. Leibowitz here. They had, let me get to my agenda item, excuse me. They had met with town council back in May of this year, and they recently requested that they be considered to be put on an agenda because they were told after the Birch Grove School was essentially complete that they would be able to come back and speak to you further regarding the Miracle Field. Tonight is not a night where I'd be expecting any sort of resolution to be put in place. It's for them to further their discussion, share their concerns, and you can share your concerns with them as well. And we can go from there. I know another thought is also to try to get all the game players in one meeting. So that would include the town council, maybe the Board of Education, some of the sporting groups that are out there. I know we received a communication today where they'd like to be involved, at least to share their concerns, or maybe not so concerns, but what they'd like to discuss. So going forward, I'd like to try to get a good group together in a separate special meeting, if you're all in agreement with that.
Okay.
So I'd like to introduce Mr. and Mrs. Leibowitz, and I'll let you take it away.
Nice to actually see you guys. This is the
Yeah,
first
this
time
is-
I get to see you
yeah,
guys.
this is a little
Last time was
different.
at least
Half of us.
At least, right, you know, from the nose up here. Thank you guys for coming.
Absolutely.
Welcome. And I was hoping that you guys could kind of go through your letter and give us an update of where you're at right now and
Absolutely.
and just kind of where the project is.
Well, we really got started back in March, we talked about with the meetings with the Board of Ed, and then we had our meeting with you. And one of the recommendations that the town council gave us was, they basically said the timing wasn't right, which the Journal Enquirer, I guess, very eloquently put in their headlines. Good advertising, bad advertising. And one of the recommendations was to start fundraising, which we have. So we wanted to come in front of you folks just to see where we stood, get everybody's pulse. It's a month before the town elections. We want to work with, we hope everybody wins. We want to work with this town council, and we've enjoyed working with up to the past. So at this point, we have grants or commitments, including an ongoing raffle we have of almost $120,000.
Which is really exciting since May.
Yeah, that's amazing.
You know, one of the things that difficulty, we haven't gone after any major donors, only because we don't have a location.
We have a grant writer that's been getting a laundry list of grants, but we can't go after anything until we have a location and any of the big funders.
So we've received $5,000 from Berkshire Bank and a commitment for another $5,000 next year, a $25,000 commitment from the Miracle League of Connecticut, a $25,000 commitment from the 21st Century Tolland Fund, which funds sports for disabled athletes. We ran a golf tournament this past Monday in the rain.
I saw your pictures.
Pouring,
Yeah.
solid,
Yes.
solid day of rain, but a full day of smiles.
And we sort of explained to the golfers that we're being given the Ireland experience
Thank you.
for
Thank
not
you. Yes.
$5,000.
Exactly.
And everybody had a great time, and it was fun, and we were able to raise just short of $30,000 in spite of the weather. We have donations of $5,300. Other events, we've had car washes, tag sales. We had a tag sale this past weekend that raised another $1,300. And we're running a Ultimate Red Sox Experience raffle, which we're selling the tickets for $25. We're very excited about it, and we're hoping to raise $25,000, for that item. We've been building awareness of our project and our volunteer committees. We had the golf tournament. We have an adult prom gala coming April 30th. All our committees, we now have over 50 committee members that are involved. It grows daily, and every day I get an email from someone offering a donation. There's an organization called 100 Women. I don't know if anybody's heard of them, and they've reached out to us, and they get together quarterly, and 100 women who each put in $100, and they give a donation. And they reached out to us based on the last Journal Enquirer article, and they said we're one of the 2 finalists for their grant for October.
Wow.
So it's very exciting. Another individual reached out to us, donated $1,000. He volunteers for the Travelers Championship, and based on their volunteerism, they can pick a charity which they give a donation to, and we've done that also. And as Laurel says, we have a grant writer researching grants. We've had a high scale meeting with the Cal Ripken Foundation, who Mike Byam and his contacts at Youth Catholic High School. And we met with a high executive up there, who basically said they're our closer. They said to us, if you raise 300,000, we get you to 400,000. We'll get you over the finish line. We've also had conversations with Major League Baseball, who have said the same thing, that if we get close, they'll help us get over that. We have a scheduled meeting with Julia McGrath, who's the grant coordinator for Congressman Joe Courtney. So we're also looking at federal level and grants. We tried to become part of the infrastructure bill. My conversations with Congressman Courtney were, you have to be shovel ready to get within the $3.5 trillion bill. And we're not quite there yet.
Getting closer.
We have our regular board. We also have an advisory committee. We've been very lucky. Tim Restall, the president and general manager of the Hartford Yard Goats, is on our advisory committee and is very integral in getting us refreshments from the golf tournament. Tim Zhu, he's the chief financial officer and vice president for the Boston Red Sox, and he was instrumental in getting us the ultimate Red Sox package. Stacy Peel with Berkshire Bank and executive vice president. Jim Penders has just joined our advisory committee, the UConn baseball coach, which basically said anything he can do within NCAA rules, he will do to help us get this field. And Mike Machado, who's the executive director of the Medical League of Connecticut, is also on our advisory committee. So we're pretty excited and proud of what we've done. And people came up to us at the golf tournament and said, how can we help? I want to give you more money and everything else. So we feel it's a neat project, and we really, we chose Tolland to put this. We live in Woodstock. You all probably know that. We were Tolland residents for about 20 years. And we moved to Woodstock, but our heart is still in Tolland. Our son lives in Tolland. I still coach challenger baseball in Tolland. And we just feel this is a tremendous project that would put Tolland on the map. There's one in West Hartford, there's one in East Lyme. And we see it as a field of dreams for special needs athletes. The reason why I have this meeting and know where we stand is, we want to get going on the project. We're raising money, we're getting momentum. We know it'll probably take a couple of years, but we don't want the athletes to be playing on subpar fields any longer than they have to.
Another thing to remember is this is for the special needs athletes, but it's really for the community. It's to put the community together, to bridge those gaps and get a place where we can have spectators come and cheer on the players and get more and more volunteers to come out. We talked about the youth program being an integral part of our Challenger baseball, and it would be an integral part of the Miracle League to get the youth involved in helping others from when they're little to all the way grown up. It's just a priceless gift to give our typical youth and our typical athletes. And with the car wash, we had the lacrosse team come out, we had the Tolland High School soccer team come out, we had Tolland baseball kids there. And that's really, really an important piece of this whole project. So it's an all-inclusive field, but it's not just for special needs athletes. It's for everyone in the communities around.
And one of the questions we were asked were suggestions for alternate locations. And we thought about that. And we did a lot of investigation and vetting regarding locations in town. And in conjunction with our consulting engineer, Todd Penny, we chose the Birch Grove site based on the infrastructure there, the cost savings there, and everything else. Our feeling is that if that isn't a site that is decided upon, we wouldn't be doing our due diligence if we didn't open it to northern, other towns and other communities. A lot of things we're hearing are that there's CARES Act money out there, and communities are looking to invest in projects like this. We understand the fiscal tightness in Tolland. And so, but we still wanted it Tolland, that we really wanted at the Birch Grove site. The fields have been offline. It's in line with the new school. I think everybody remembers Peter Staba's letter, the facilities director, who basically said, this is the site for the field. And his recommendation, this is the place, if you're going to put it in the town of Tolland, Birch Grove is the site to put it at. And so our goal tonight was just to see where the town council stands. We agreed to do an engineering study at the last meeting, which was recommended by town manager Mike Rosen. But we really don't want to commit the funds if we don't have a commitment that if the engineering study came back with a thumbs up, that's where the field would be. As you all know, even though we've raised the money, it's a lot of pleading, begging, borrowing, and a lot of personal contacts and contacts of all our committee members, in order to do that. And so I guess that's our presentation.
Well, I'd like to start out with saying, I'm a Yankees fan, so.
So Tammy, so am I.
I have.
But when Tim Zoo asked me what I wanted and I said $50,000, I would have changed my allegiance in a minute.
Gosh, that says something there. I don't know.
If I could,
With the game last week, you might get more people wanting to get on that Red Sox train, unfortunately.
But the Red Sox train is actually helping raffle sales.
Yeah, I know, right? That was a rough game. But,
Absolutely.
yeah, but I get it. So I'd like to just basically start out to say, I'm definitely committed to trying to find a way to make this work in Tolland. I do think we need to do we need to do a couple of things on our side. We do need to have a joint meeting with you there
Mhm.
preferably. That would include the Board of Ed, the Town Council, Tolland Soccer Club, Tolland Little League, the Rec Department, because there are obstacles that we have to acknowledge and figure out a way to deal with here. This field would change the makeup of the current Birchboro field.
Mhm.
And the sports teams that are going to be impacted by that, we need to make sure that we are finding a way to, there needs to be a home for them too,
Mhm.
right? We can't just displace
Mhm.
a bunch of fields that are actively being used for active programs that support all the kids in town. So we would definitely have to find out what we would be losing by putting the Miracle Field there, and then where we can place all of that. And I think the only way we really get to the true gist of that conversation is to have everybody at the table to
Absolutely.
discuss how many teams, how many fields, what's the impact, is there an alternate place,
Mhm.
what we would do going forward. And ultimately, I think this ends up being a conversation with the town council and the Board of Ed, because it is it's the Tolland town property, but it's the school at the same time.
Mhm.
So I don't think the town council can say, yes, this is what you're going to do. I mean, technically, sure, we could say that, but I don't think that's a partnership that,
Right.
we want to have. I think the Board of Ed, they are going to have to be an integral part of this conversation.
Mhm.
And the school systems are gonna have to also agree to that.
Mhm.
So, and then the last piece that I think we really just need to address, and that's just because of the sour taste that is in everybody's mouth, is the ongoing maintenance of this project. And I know you had talked about setting up a trust,
Mhm.
and I didn't know where you guys were on all of that, because I'll be honest with you, a big thing that we need to start discussing as a town is that the turf field needs to be replaced at the cost of $100,000 every year to the town of Tolland.
Mhm.
With the cost of the field every 10 years, we're looking at $100,000 in tax impact.
Right, and this turf is very different. It's a
Right.
whole different field, and we could actually possibly have one of the representatives from the turf
That would be
company
useful.
come. Another contact that we have is the construction company from Coventry who put in the East Line field. And he is welcome to help, is offered to help us in any way. And they may be the ones to give these answers.
That would be very
you know,
useful, because
but-
we're gonna need to understand
Yeah.
that, because the ongoing cost of replacing or repairing this
Right.
field.
And the field that we're looking at is guaranteed for 7 years up front. And they're thinking, it is a newer phase, but it's short turf, so it's not the same, it's not the gravel.
Right.
But they're thinking that it should last 10 to 15 years with high use and even longer with lower use. So we're definitely looking at a whole different surface than the high school.
Which is good to know,
Yes.
because the high school field is tremendously
Absolutely.
expensive.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
it's a
And the
10-year replacement.
replacement of this whole field at this point, currently right now, is 180,000 for the surface. So that again is a whole different ballgame.
And we're committed to continue, you set up the trust and continue, the golf tournament did do well, we're continuing to do that. And what we found is the community events are great.
Yeah.
The car wash, and, people would just wanna, there's other golf, Miracle League Connecticut has a golf tournament every year, and they raised even more than we did. And, they're fun.
They charged a lot more.
Well,
They charged a lot more to play.
if you
So-
guys keep kicking off the golf
Right.
tournament at the rate that you are, then, you
Well,
don't
what-
have to raise the prices.
What
'cause-
has been exciting again is we started to do the tag sale and we got so many donations. We were gonna do it in April. So many donations, we said we'll do one in October. Well, we had gotten so many donations, we had to do one in August. So we had a successful one in August, a successful one in October. Now we're gonna do one in April. The people that have been doing the tag sale are willing to even try and look to see if we can get some type of retail space to do something. The people are vested in helping. The folks that ended up running the car wash said, now we know what to do. We can do this again. So there's a lot of positive energy out there And that's what we really want to hold on to. We want to give everybody hope to say, this is going to happen. We're going to make it happen.
And the neat thing about the golf tournament, the reason we made so much money is 100% was donated.
Yeah,
The golf course was donated, the food was donated, the golf shirts were, that we gave out were donated. It was just incredible. We got so many sponsorships, I had to make up, things to sponsor.
We had to tip the wait staff at Shays, and we had to rent extra golf carts because we had too many golfers.
these are good problems to
good
have,
problems.
right?
Right.
Yeah, the
Those were-
residents of this town are extremely
Yeah.
generous and they're great. You know,
Absolutely,
they are definitely
absolutely.
invested in seeing this. And I can't speak for everybody here. I'm sure everybody can speak for themselves. And I'm definitely invested in finding a way to make this happen in Tolland. I think we just have to, do the due diligence to let the people who are gonna be impacted by the move of the fields and everybody come. We only learn from everybody's feedback, and for us to truly understand what we're gonna have to do to handle the teams that are being displaced by this, we have to have that full understanding.
And one of the reasons we did pick the Birch Grove site is because it's been offline for a couple of years.
Yeah.
That was the other reason, we didn't want to displace someone. We didn't want to say, okay, we want to be in the proximity of Adams Adventure. We want one of the soccer fields there, which would be ideal for us, obviously. The bathrooms are there, Adams Adventure's there, but we don't want to, come in and say, all right, we want, let's talk about the, lower soccer field, at Heron Cove. Or not Heron Cove, what's it called?
No.
Cross conference.
Thank you. I guess we've been out of the soccer for a while.
We're both
Wait, I
60s,
don't
so,
think I'll ever forget cross conference. It's been way
But
too
we-
many years.
So that's why, another reason Birch Grove, because it's been offline for 2 years.
And the fact that it could be used by the schools
Yeah,
every
that was
single day
another
of the
reason
week,
for gym class.
Yeah.
which would be wonderful for them.
And, we do have, and we anticipate it being used by T-ball. I mean, you could, you've all had children playing the T-ball program and they put them on, normally on a soccer. Imagine now they're playing on a beautiful turf field with a scoreboard, turf field, dugouts and everything else. It'd be cool for them too. So we wouldn't monopolize 100% the use of the field, but we just
And the
feel.
senior center could use it, So I guess one of the biggest questions we have is, will you do an engineering study soon? Is that something that can be done soon and have an answer on the feasibility?
Well, we don't want to spend the money until we've had the meeting and everyone's
Right.
agreed.
Okay.
So I guess the next step is, try to schedule meetings as soon as we can. Have that, get everybody on the same page, address everybody's, hopefully concerns and try to get all the, try to get the turf player there. The turf player there, maybe Earth Dynamic, who's the builder can be there. The head of baseball, the head of soccer, and then beyond that, let's agree, okay, where the site's gonna be. And then if everyone thinks that that's the best site, then do the engineering study,
Yeah.
for that.
Can you work with Lisa to make sure she knows all of the players
Yeah,
that you guys are just talking
absolutely.
about to get there?
Definitely.
And then I think, like I said, I want to move forward with trying to get this meeting on the schedule as quickly as we
Okay.
can. And then, like I said, the only other concerning part is I don't know the legalese, how it works with setting up a trust for
Right.
the ongoing maintenance part, because I know that's going to be a big question across the board with the Board of Ed and the town council, is the funding of it going forward. And I do think you guys have great momentum, and I think you've definitely got partners who are willing to help. And everybody in this town except me plays golf, so, it seems like that's a good avenue to go down. So that I would think would be the only other piece that we would need to kind of lock
My
down.
guess is it might be similar to Linda and the Library Foundation. We would
Yeah.
just, our foundation would come in under, under the town.
Yeah,
So we'd raise money under that foundation, which would be under the umbrella, under the umbrella of the town.
okay, so then Lisa, we would need to explore how we would go about setting up something, because I know the library fund is separate, unique, so.
Well, it definitely would have to be a trust in order to protect the assets.
Correct.
From any sort of other liabilities of the town in the future, but I'd have to find out through our attorney as to if we have to have a commission overseeing it.
Yeah.
Or if it could be something under the auspice of the town finance department and town council. Let me find out about that.
Yeah, let's start working on the logistics of that. Let's see what we need to do in order
And
to get that
we
set
can
up.
check and see what East Line has done,
Perfect.
because they are kind of run through the
And if
town.
they have somebody that they could send to,
Yeah, the rec, it's under the rector, their model is our model. It's at Flanders School, it's on school property. They're continuing the fundraiser to do other things there. They actually put a Kevin's Court there, which is kind of cool.
Which is a basketball piece.
I've seen those. Those are so cool. I was at a campground and they had that. I was really confused at first,
Actually, the
really
21st
confused.
Century Talent Fund approached us and said, well, would we be able to put a Kevin's Court at Birchwood?
They're so
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Tennis courts are so cool.
Yeah, so they're interested in doing that on the site, somewhere on the site also.
And somebody else approached us saying, you're gonna need scoreboards. So again, people are having visions of, and that was somebody that's no longer in Tolland, but has been supportive of us all along, so.
Do we
All
want
right,
to?
Brenda?
Thank you. I just want to say I'm getting goosebumps hearing about all of this. The amount of residents who have stepped forward and shown through their time, their talents, and their money that this is important to them is extremely impressive. And that says a lot about, what the two of you mean to our community. So thank you very much for your commitment and your dedication to this program. I don't want to lose this field. We need to move forward as fast as we can to ensure that that our community can grow, that our community can be resilient. This field offers so many opportunities for all of our neighbors to be involved. I am sure with our open space that we can figure out a way to ensure that there are enough fields for everybody, but right now we don't have a field that fits this need. We don't have a field that will help build the community connection between the players and the volunteers and the family. We don't have a field right now that makes everybody feel like they are a valued and important member of our community. And I'm thrilled that we have the opportunity to bring this to Tolland. I think that this needs to be a top priority. And it's going to bring so much to us. So thank you again for everything that you're doing, all the relationships you're building, so that we can see this come to fruition.
And Steve? Oh, sorry, Lou.
Go
I'll
ahead.
get you next.
No, that's okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. No, I appreciate the energy. I think I was speaking to I think it's the Naprios at the over at Susan Guy recently, and I had a good conversation with the father there and the importance of this for them. So it's something I definitely want to move forward on. I think also in terms of timeliness, we have as soon as the next council's elected, the budget season kind of kicks off. It's sort of already ongoing. And so I think if we were to try and set a date for this, it would be ideal to get it before probably December, which is when the capital improvement plan goes to the council. So I think especially since this would sort of in some respects be a capital project that would be maintained over a multi-year period, not necessarily under the town's expenditures, but just in terms of our infrastructure that, if, this moving forward would then become a piece of infrastructure, much like Chairman Muccio was saying, that the high school field and other fields in town and the Parks Department covers, to be a part of that whole broader infrastructure. So, but no, I thank you guys for the update. And it's, I think I saw your kids at the car wash. It was great to see everybody out there, and the energy there is great. We just need more nice sunny days for them to keep having more car washes.
Yeah, absolutely.
But thank you, Madam Chair.
Lou?
Thank you, Madam Chair. First off, I agree with everything that's been said so far. When I was on the Birch Grove Building Committee, I know that we discussed this with both of you. And I want to let you know that it wasn't an easy decision for us, that it was something that wasn't the right time. There was too many unknown variables, especially with how the state was handling things. So I appreciate that you doing this hard work, following through with this due diligence that we needed so that we can now feel comfortable moving forward. I agree 100% that this is something that is worthwhile. I think that it's overwhelming that the way that the community has really supported both of you and this entire project, which shows Tolland is open, welcoming, and supportive of its own. And I think that says something a lot for the town. I think it's something that we definitely, it has definite value, and I'd like to see us examine it further. I do agree with what's been said so far, that we need to make sure that we have all players involved, that we have all the different leagues, so that we can have full buy-in, so that there's not anybody that's looking like, oh, well, we're doing this, but we're slighting this other group. We need to have full community buy-in, and I think that's something that's very important at this point. But I think it's just outstanding what you've done so far, and I think it's something that.
It's not just us.
Well,
We have,
right,
we have a
village.
huge
Yeah.
village,
right.
and we're gonna gather more and bring in more.
And having been the president of
Some of our
501c3
village are
before,
right behind us.
I feel your pain. It's trying to raise money, is going knocking door to door, making those phone calls. It's never an easy thing. So for you to raise that amount in that short of a period of time is just, for your group, is outstanding. Through Madam Chair, I think Lisa, that Ms. Hancock, that some of the things that we could look at is as far as for that trust is, I think it would have to fall under a 501c3 organization, a structure, at least that way, where it'd have to be set up that way to have some type of oversight. I mean, you'd know better dealing with the finance aspect of it, but it's something that I think that, that we really need to examine, so we make sure that it's set up the right way if we do move forward with this project. And I think it's something that I think for me, it's setting up the trust to make sure that we can properly maintain this going forward. Is another big, not a hurdle, but an issue that would need to be, that we would need to face to make sure that if we do this, that it's something that we can make sure to maintain properly, that we can move forward and make sure that it's something that that our children and grandchildren could use down the road. But I thank you so much for everything you've done. I think it's outstanding, and I think it's something that is definitely a worthwhile reinvestment in our town. It's just a matter of making sure that this is something that is a proper location, and that we have everybody supporting it.
Another thing that's neat is the West Hartford field
Been there,
draws
yeah.
players from 40 communities.
Mhm.
So it's not just gonna be, it's not a Tolland field, it's a special needs field for, and that's why we changed our 501c3 from Miracle League of Tolland County and Miracle League of Northern Connecticut. We wanted to expand it to all of Northern Connecticut. So we'll probably draw from Enfield all the way to the Rhode Island border. Kids who play in West Hartford travel up to an hour, because there's just no other fields, like this for them to play on.
Yeah,
A safe
and it
field like that.
again, would really be a feather in Tolland's cap. To provide that opportunity.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. John?
Very good. Thank you, Madam Chair. I concur with what everybody's been saying, and Tammy said it best. I think I'd really like to see a way that we can make this happen. And all the stakeholders in the room together, see if we can hash this thing out, make it happen. Your passion for this is clear. You've done some awesome work, so I'd love to see us find a way to get this done.
The other thing, if there are specific questions or concerns that we can get answers to or find answers to ahead of time, specifications. I know they did do a study. We have an engineer that's been working on our committee, and he did lay out the field so that there was 2 other soccer fields on the premises. But I remember that as being questioned, whether the space was there. So if that's one of the questions, that's something that we might be able to find out ahead of time before our meeting. Any other questions that people have? That would be helpful, I would think.
If you could share any questions you have with me,
Yeah.
I'd appreciate it. And
You can approach, the president of Tolland Soccer and Tolland Baseball. And
Yeah.
you can address their questions.
Anybody else?
Quick
Steve?
question.
Yeah.
I'm curious, is the Miracle Field, their season currently over? Mostly just curious about any opportunities to kind of get a site walk of what, I've never been to one, so it'd be great
Oh,
to,
we
be able to go one
definitely
to East
arrange
Lyme
that.
or West Hartford, maybe It would
East
be a
Lyme's
town
probably
council, but
the
even just
nicest,
one-on-one.
East Lyme's the newer one, and that's the field where I'm replicating with the soccer.
Okay.
And, we'd love to go down there with you because we had goosebumps. It was just like, it was like walking in Dyersville, Iowa. In the field of dreams, it was just like, it was like, wow.
Yeah, no, that'd be great. And if there's any opportunity, especially before the winter comes,
Both
yeah.
fields and both locations are doing a Halloween trick
Okay.
or treat for Halloween type thing. And I think they're both on the 30th of October. And I assume that they're at the field, on the fields, but I can check into that. But I'd be very happy to set up a tour. I think they'd be thrilled to have us, whether we want to do that before a meeting or whether we want to do it after. You let me know.
Okay.
That's not a bad idea, Lisa. Maybe we can ask all the people who want to, if there's a date that people can go down and see it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
They've been very open. And again, the fellow in East Lyme is, there during the week. So
She's the recreation director.
he'd be very happy to help us out.
Yeah, I think that'd be great. I mean, ideally, it would probably be best if we didn't have to have a quorum, so, we wouldn't have to require having a legal meeting, so we had probably up to three people there, for each caucus, or even just three that are most interested, that can report back to the rest of the council. That might be the best avenue. But if everyone wants to go, that would, probably even, great, and then we can go through those procedural.
Absolutely. Yeah, 'cause seeing it is really,
It's impressive.
Yeah.
neat.
It's an impressive facility. It's really, and as a Kevin's court did it too, so.
I'm so confused by it when I saw it. I'm like,
Yeah.
somebody needs to explain this to me. What is
There's-
going on?
There's one you and I can dunk on, so that's
I
kind of
know,
cool.
that's what I said. Listen, I played basketball for a hot minute when I was younger, and I was like, listen, I can dunk this. I can totally dunk here.
Yeah,
I actually have pictures of it. I was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen.
absolutely.
I'm easily amused, as you can tell. All right, so I think we've got our marching orders for this, and Lisa will get working on pulling all that together, and we're gonna
Send
try
me a
to
date. We
move
appreciate
this
it.
forward as quick as we can to get a meeting together, and we'll,
Thank you.
Lisa?
If you could provide me with a date for this, for the tour that they would be able to do.
Yeah, we'll
If you
talk
reach
to-
out to me, then
we'll
I
talk
can
to you.
reach
So
out.
during the week, on a
Yeah.
weekend, what would
What's your
everyone
preference?
prefer?
I feel like weekends might be more ideal, especially since the days are gonna get quickly shorter and
Yeah.
shorter, that you don't want to be in the daylight, so it'd probably be like a daytime, either morning or afternoon.
How-
October 30th to Saturday,
Okay,
I think.
This Saturday, we have the.
That's
So
October
unless we
30th,
did it,
October 30th to Saturday.
yes.
October 30th is a Saturday.
Okay, so
yes.
then we need to see how, these other programs utilize the field for more than baseball, just soccer. They do a lot of dance on it. They do a lot of different special
things.
needs programs on it, so.
Both East Lyme and Hartford have a biking program
They bike on
They
it,
do.
called I bike, and
as well, so.
Yeah.
it's pretty neat. So, yeah, we'll report
Reach
back
out
to
to
you.
me
I'll
and
reach
then
out
I'll
to
reach
you
out to
today.
the council.
Yeah,
Those of you that you would like to go.
And then we'll get you the names of all the players, and if you can get us a date so we can start on getting them all together. And we thank you for your time. We wish you good luck with the upcoming election. I know it's stressful time, and, we've enjoyed working with all you, so we look forward to working with all you again. So thank you.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming out. I appreciate
You
it.
betcha.
All right, 9.2, tabled agenda item from September 20th, 2021. Resolution to postpone the consideration of approval to authorize applying for the SAFER grant. So this is procedural, I think, because we tabled it,
Yeah,
which has to be on the next agenda
Yeah.
instead of
Probably should have had
postponing
you
it.
postpone, so I
Right.
apologize for that.
Oh, that's right.
So all I needed was you to do a resolution that basically postpones the meeting
Until November.
and hopefully to November 3rd.
All right,
Steve Jones, I make a motion that now therefore be resolved by the Tolland Town Council, it approves the postponement of the resolution to November 23rd, 2021, approved by the Tolland Town Council on October 12th, 2021.
Lou, I'll second it.
any discussion? All those in favor? Kurt,
Aye.
Lou,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Brenda,
Aye.
Aye.
Phil?
Aye.
I'm an aye, that's unanimous. Thank you very much. That gets us to 10, report of the interim town manager. Lisa, take it away.
We haven't been doing anything.
Right? Bonbons are involved and feed up, I know.
No, far from it. I did include in the manager's report, the first quarter, just the operating results in a comparison to last year. I didn't include a dialogue to go along with it like I normally would, but usually I do that in the second and third quarter. Basically, we discussed at the last meeting in the revenue that we would have some excess revenue coming from state grants possibly. And we'll see how that goes this year. And the ordinance stabilization fund will pretty much manage what happens with that. The only other thing, and I have to be careful how I discuss it here, because it is a lawsuit that we're involved in regarding the opioids. But there was a class action suit, and there is a potential settlement coming down the pike, and I will probably need to get it on an agenda probably in November sometime to determine if it's something that the council will accept. That's about all I can share at the moment. But I wanted to at least let you know what's happening with that.
Did anybody have any questions on Lisa's report?
Brenda.
Brenda?
Thank you. Would pending litigation be an executive session discussion?
More detail it would, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Steve?
I was gonna, just because you're looking over the report, some kudos to public safety, emergency management, just looking at some of those photos of the Hurricane Ida remnants that washed out so much of Tolland. I mean, I still see some of it in the area, so just big kudos to them, and obviously all the work that they've done with CERT too, with all the events they've attended and the ongoing efforts there, so thank you.
Anybody else have anything? No, thank you, Lisa. That gets us to 11, adoption of minutes.
Going back up here. Steve Jones, I entertain a motion, or I make a motion to approve and adopt the minutes as laid out in 1.1 and 1.2.
Any discussion?
Yes. Let's see. For the September 28th meetings, I'm gonna have to abstain from your just because I was not present. So
Technically, you don't have to abstain,
Yeah.
but you're
Okay.
free to abstain if you'd like to. As long as you've read the minutes and you're okay with them, you can vote on them. Anybody else, any other discussion? No, all those in favor, Kurt,
Aye.
Lou,
abstain.
John,
Abstain.
Brenda,
Aye.
Aye.
Bill,
Right.
I'm an aye, so that's 5 ayes, 2 abstain. All right, 12, correspondence to council. Brenda, do you have anything for us tonight?
We had, oh, I wanted to get it right. We had one email concerning glyphosates.
You get, congratulations.
Glyphosates.
Glyphosates. Okay, chairperson's report. I just want to remind everybody that electronic recycling is coming up. I don't know about anybody else, but I seem to always have something to bring to them at the high school. That is on the 23rd, starting at 8 o'clock at the high school. And this weekend, we have our newest addition to our fall festivals, and that is the Harvest event that is going to be happening on Saturday. And then I think that is all that I have right now. It gets us to 14 communications and petitions from council persons. And Lisa, I actually have a couple of things here. Just a quick update. I was wondering if you could, at some point, let us know how things are going with, let's see, I have the Assistant Director of Human Resources role. And if you could give us a little bit of a preview on when we can expect to see the process for the new project manager start.
Okay, I can tell you about the grant administrator project manager. We are looking at starting to move forward within sometime in November as far as finishing up a job description, going from there and try to get something advertised either in November or December. Mike and I have preliminary started to discuss that and hopefully move forward on that. Assistant Director of Human Services. You're talking about Beverly.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. I don't know, Beverly's, no, she was just watching it on TV. I can get an update regarding that. I know we have hired somebody. I'm not sure if she has started. Mike, are you still online? Mike Wilkinson? Yes.
Yeah,
Do you have any updates regarding Beverly Maureen's?
we're in the process of hiring someone. She's tentatively going to start in November. We haven't, she still needs to get all of her, pre-employment stuff done, but she's on board and starting kind of I think the second week in November. So, and we'll have more once we get all the pre stuff done. We'll have more to tell you about her and everything, but that's kind of where we are now. So.
Okay, thank you very much. And then the last thing that I had is, I had an interesting conversation with somebody, which led me to ask the question, our blight process that we have right now, our blight regulations, do they include commercial business?
I would need to check into that.
So
No, they do not.
Thank you.
I thought they were
I
just
didn't think
residential.
so.
I thought they were just residential, but there was an interesting article that I read and then a subsequent conversation with somebody regarding the blight of businesses. If we think about open spaces that we have in town that have been open for a long time, and we know that there's issues with them being rented for one case or another, if there's anything that we can do from a blight perspective to encourage them to try to rent them, or at least make them not look like big gaping open spaces. So I don't know how that would happen or what we would do, but I wanted to kind of put it out there for something for you to start kind of maybe thinking about and kicking around, is if there's any kind of blight ordinance that we can do for commercial space that is left open for years on end.
We could look into, I don't think if a building is empty, I don't really think there's much we can do about it being empty, but it would be if it were broken windows and graffiti all over the place and the grass being overgrown, things like that may be more of a blight issue than just a well-kept, clean building. So I can look into that. I'm sure it would have to be an amendment to the current ordinance to move forward with that. But on another note, just to bring you up to date with this, I've been working with the EDC, the Economic Development Commission, to try to get an inventory of many of these empty locations, and they're all helping me. They're volunteering to help go drive around town, not only for vacant locations, but also potential locations that may be developable for commercial business or other types of use, to get some of these properties with some development on them. And so part of that is to create an inventory of some of these empty locations to see what we can do. And my goal is to work with the commission to try to bring either potential tenants, developers, real estate professionals into our town, maybe take them on a tour of some of these locations, provide them with the regulations that can be used in those areas and some ideas, and to try to sell or market our town to start filling some of those up or developing. Certainly commercial development, it'll help our grand list a bit. I mean, in no way is it going to solve our issue of revenue. And, for the amount of revenue that we're losing each year, bringing in other commercial development will certainly help, but it's not going to solve the issue of, the burden, the tax burden on the residential base. because we have so few areas in town of where we can develop. But what I'm trying to do is to at least see what we have and what we can try to get filled.
I appreciate
So
that.
I'll
Look at that, we got our own broker.
Yeah.
I'm not a broker, but I'm trying to make it happen.
I appreciate that,
You're
Lisa.
welcome.
I appreciate that. Does anybody else have any petitions? Steve?
Just one quick, just heads up for Lisa, as we're coordinating for that potential Miracle Field meeting on the 30th. That I'll get confirmation from the Conservation Commission, but the Wannet Phase 1 kind of grand opening, I think, was originally slated for the 30th. So there should be an update, but usually those are in the morning. So if that's just a factor, I'll try and get word from them this week and relay it back to Jeremy Nuccio and yourself when we're planning it with the Leibowitz or whoever else is involved.
Let me know. And regarding the Miracle Field joint meeting, what's your preference for me to try to shoot towards sometime in the beginning of November, after the election, before the election? What's your pleasure?
Yeah, I would say, I don't think we have enough time to try to crunch it in
No, we have a lot.
beforehand. And I think this is something that's going to obviously extend beyond. So if we try to get it in November, beginning of November, I think that would probably,
That's what I put,
yeah,
beginning of November.
around that time frame. I think that would give everybody enough time to get in touch with. There's a lot of contacts. It appears that, you know, we need to have kind of come and talk to people, plus Tolland Little League, Tolland Soccer, and I don't think lacrosse uses like that field at all. I'm pretty sure that they don't, but you know, you're gonna also need Bruce and everybody else. So I think
Yeah,
we're gonna need a little time to coordinate it.
Bruce and I have been talking about it, as well as some of the input. He really didn't reach out to those areas because he was told pretty much wait until we see where we're going with this. But he is going to reach out for input. I know there are some people who are interested, but certainly if you have any contacts that you want to share with me, that would make my job a little bit easier, trying to determine who should or should not be there. I'll certainly reach out to Bruce.
I know the presidents of both of those leagues. I can get
If
you their
you could
contacts.
send me their contact information, that would be wonderful. And anyone else that you think should be in attendance besides the team from the Leibowitz and the Miracle Field, the group. And,
I can do
you
that.
know, we have the soccer, we have baseball, but I'm not sure what other sporting groups we should include.
Bruce might know, so we can, okay. Brenda?
Yes, thank you. As you know, yesterday was Monday. Yesterday was Indigenous Peoples' Day. The president signed a proclamation to that effect. And, you know, I took the day to do what he suggested, take a look and see how the Indigenous people have impacted our society throughout the centuries. They've been honored to serve in our military. They've uplifted and invested in our communities. They have had impact in scholarship, in art, in science. They're an integral part of our history. I would like to see Indigenous People Day added to our calendar for the town of Tolland. It's been asked before, and the reply was that it was an official federal holiday, except so I'm asking now that it be added to the calendar now that it is officially recognized. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve?
There's one other question I sent it to you, Lisa, previously, but someone had reached out to me, I think when I was out walking around town, and they were curious how well the absentee balloting has been used, or if the clerk had any updates. So nothing I need an answer for right now, but just I'd be curious to know how well,
Process?
just how people are using it for this election because of COVID, that it was extended. So they were just wondering how many people actually made use of it. And if there's any reminders that have been sent out. I said, I think there was a deep last month, but they were just wondering.
Well, as of last week, we had about 55 people who
Absentee ballot.
and I'm sure there's going to be more. I don't know if any more have come in this week,
Okay,
but I know they're in the process of
okay, thank
getting
you.
information out there.
All right. Anybody else? All right, that gets us to 15, public participation on any subject within the jurisdiction of the town council, 3-minute limit on device. Please raise your hand. There's nobody in the audience. If you're on a phone, it's *9. If I'll call on you in order of the hand raised, when you are called on, please state your name and address for the record. All right. Stephen,
Seeing none, I make a motion to adjourn at 9:22 PM.
Kurt, I'll second that motion.
any discussion? All those in favor? Kurt,
Aye.
Lou,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Brenda,
Aye.
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
I'm an aye. Thank you all for coming. Have a good night.
Good night.